Here, Stephen, let's start here in France, where it's D-Day for the country's Prime Minister.
Yes, he's to lay out 50 billion euros worth of spending cuts on the cabinet table later as he presents his plan to reduce France's public spending to his cabinet colleagues. Now, we already have some details of where the axe will fall, but Manuel Valls is facing criticism from within his own party, particularly on measures which affect pensioners on low incomes. Now, it won't be an easy sell no matter what the decisions are, but the government has to do something to bring down the country's budget deficit, which is now set to reach 3.8% this year. Mark Thompson has more.
It's a point almost all members of the Socialist Party agree on. 50 billion euros must be chopped from the French budget. The questions are how and where those cuts are being made. New French Prime Minister Manuel Valls has proposed slashing 18 billion euros from public sector workers and services, 11 billion from local authorities, 10 billion from healthcare, and a further 11 billion euros from social security. The savings would include freezing public sector salaries and social security payments until 2015. For some socialist MPs, that plan would place too much of a burden on low-income households. They've come up with 3 alternative proposals. Among the suggestions, deputies want to delay some tax cuts to businesses or limit them to smaller companies until 2016. Both sides are keen to reach an agreement before Parliament votes on the plan next week.
We have made proposals with regards to those with small pensions and taxes on low-income households. I think we've been heard. The conversations with the government are ongoing.
The cuts are part of President François Hollande's Responsibility Pact, which aims to reduce taxes on businesses to help create jobs. All this while the government is committed to bringing the budget deficit to under 3% of GDP next year.
Of course, we'll be following that cabinet meeting for you later today on France 24. Let's turn now to Portugal, though, which will be testing the water on the markets later as it prepares to exit its bailout programme. The country is planning to sell 750 million euros of 10-year bonds on the markets, a test of how the country is viewed by international investors. Portugal's benchmark borrowing rate fell to yesterday to around 3.7%, close to 8-year lows. This comes as the inspectors from the Troika of International Lenders are in Lisbon for one of their final assessments of the country's bailout programme. Portugal is due to leave that programme in May, and the government will soon need to make a decision on how it's going to fund the country after that. The market reaction to this sale will be important, though, as economists say things are starting to look up for the Portuguese economy.
Most macroeconomic indicators are improving. On the investment side, we had a pretty good last quarter of last year, and we're expecting good results for the first quarter of this year, with an increase in growth. Some even predict a rate of around 2%. So this is an improvement.
Let's take a look now what's happening on the markets, and we'll start in Asia, where a HSBC survey of manufacturing in China showed a sector in contraction again, but at a slightly improved situation in general. That hasn't worried the markets much, as you can see. The Hang Seng and the Shanghai Composite trading in the red, but not too far down. On the Nikkei in Tokyo, things looking a little bit brighter. There, the Japanese railway and hotels giant Cebu Holdings has gone back to the stock market after it was delisted a decade ago because of an accounting scandal. It's having a good first day back at the office. Shares opened up 5% today in Tokyo.
Right, well, plenty of companies news today. Stephen, what's caught your eye?
I'm going to start with the owner of KFC and Pizza Hut, which saw its profits jump by 18% in the first 3 months of this year. The company says the boost is down to a revival of its brands in China. Sales in Yum Foods' biggest market rose 20% to $1.4 billion as the company bounced back from a food safety scare in 2012. The Swedish telecoms equipment maker Ericsson has reported lower than expected profits of 286 million euros for the first 3 months of the year. Like-for-like sales fell by 7% over the period, hit by lower earnings from North America and Japan. The company says contracts it's won recently will help to lift sales in the second half of this year. And French cable operator Numericable is aiming to raise a record 8.5 billion euros by selling junk bonds this Wednesday. Such debts are usually used to raise money quickly and hence come with higher interest rates. Numericable will use the money to finance its purchase of the mobile network SFR.
And finally, Stephen, a bonus for tax collectors who might not deserve it in the United States.
This is thanks to a audit of America's Internal Revenue Service, which found that it's paying $1 million in bonuses to some 1,100 staff who themselves are in fact behind on their tax payments. Now, on top of that, it paid out another $1.8 million to workers who are facing disciplinary action for a whole range of issues, including misusing government credit cards for travel and fraudulently claiming unemployment benefits. Now, the government inspector who carried out this report say the bonuses were inconsistent, unsurprisingly, with the IRS mission, which is to collect taxes, of course. But on the whole, they're not the worst offenders. Just 1.1% of workers in this department of the American government are behind on their taxes. Overall, federal workers come in at about 3%, but that's well behind the general population, who about 8% of them are behind on their tax bill. So not the worst offenders, but perhaps a little bit inappropriate.
Well, you'd imagine they're the ones to set the example, no?
They definitely said no. They'd know when the deadlines are anyway.
That's for sure, no excuse there. Stephen Carroll there with all the very latest from the business world. Thanks indeed. Well, it's now time to turn our attention to the internet, where, among other things, Finnish photographers have been taking pictures of their chihuahuas posing as famous paintings.
Sunday, 20th of April, saw a fatal shooting at a checkpoint manned by pro-Russian activists near the town of Sloviansk in eastern Ukraine. The Kremlin was quick to blame the attack on the Ukrainian far-right nationalist party Right Sector, which was extremely active during the Euromaidan revolution that culminated with the ousting of the then president, Viktor Yanukovych. The accusations are partly corroborated by a report aired on Russian TV channel Live News, which claimed a business card belonging to the far-right group's leader, Dmytro Yarosh, was found at the scene and proves Right Sector was involved. Many Ukrainian web users say this is nothing more than a clumsy attempt by Kremlin-backed media at manipulating public opinion, and they've been poking fun at the so-called evidence online. Hundreds have taken to social networks posting under the Yarosh's business card hashtag with sarcastic comments or wacky photo montages ridiculing the accusations made by the Russian authorities. Citizens have been coming up with all sorts of creative ways to share their doubts over Moscow's version of events, saying anyone could have dropped the famous business card at the scene of the shooting to put Yarosh in the frame. And there are now, of course, several Twitter accounts attributed to the business card, with all manner of mocking creations, showing that despite ongoing tensions with pro-Russian activists, Ukrainian web users have not lost their sense of humour. Baggage handlers dropping items from a several-metre-high movable stairway down into a cargo bin. An Air Canada passenger filmed this scene at Toronto's Pearson International Airport, and the video's been viewed some 1 million times since being posted to YouTube last Thursday, drawing fury on social media. Shocked to see baggage handled so carelessly, web users have been posting outraged reactions to what they saw in the video. Some saying they'll no longer fly with Air Canada. Passengers have been slamming the baggage handlers' lack of professionalism, saying they should carry each suitcase down the stairs. Air Canada has posted a statement to Facebook apologising for what they call the unacceptable way passengers' luggage was handled. The airline also says the employees concerned didn't follow usual procedure, and their employment will be terminated pending the outcome of the investigation. While some feel this is a satisfactory conclusion to the affair, others say the outcome is radical and unnecessary. Some web users are defending the baggage handlers, saying they shouldn't lose their job, as the airline is to blame for not providing them with adequate resources to move the items quickly and safely. British web users have taken social networks in their droves, posting under the Cameron Jesus hashtag, following comments made by the Prime Minister David Cameron over Easter, in which he asked the people of Britain to be more confident about our status as a Christian country. His words were met with a flurry of posts, with web users saying Cameron is fueling religious tensions in the UK. They feel the head of the British government made a mistake and should apologise to all those he may have offended. Do we finally have evidence that the Loch Ness Monster actually exists? Ever since these satellite images claiming to show the silhouette of a creature moving through the water were posted online, web users have been wondering. The pics have been widely shared on social networks and were even published in British newspaper The Daily Mail last week. They are, it turns out, a hoax and have been debunked by a number of web users saying what we see is a boat wake touched up with some nifty image editing software. Disappointing news indeed for all those hoping for a glimpse of Nessie. Two dog owners from Finland decided to deck out their chihuahuas Timmy and Niku in flowers, turbans and various pieces of material to make them look like medieval paintings. You can see the finished pieces on the Medieval Dogs Tumblr blog, which pays a somewhat offbeat tribute to works by Flemish and Italian painters of the 15th and 16th century. This time-lapse video was put together by Taiwanese photographer Stan Chung and is a compilation of some of his favourite moments and landscapes shared with his family during their 2-year trip around Europe. The video, Magical Europe, is available to view on sharing site Vimeo and takes us on a beautiful journey across 30 or so countries. Enjoy.
Right, time for a quick break, but we'll be coming back with Gulliver Crag in Kiev, where he'll be bringing us all the very latest after the interim president there called for forces to go on the offensive in the east of the country. Back after this.